Food for Thought with Professor David Bitte.
It's another beautiful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. My name is James Okumu. So glad you've taken the time to watch. Professor Ndete is here with us again.
And said, let's talk about the nuclear family.
Yeah.
They are parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the man, the father is a man.
Mm.
He's also the husband.
Yes.
He's also the father.
Mm.
Man, husband, father.
Yeah.
Three different roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, occurring in that same person. And the same is for the mother. She's a woman, she's a wife, she's a mother. Yeah. And then there are also children, siblings. And the siblings relate with each one of these different roles of the father.
Yes.
Who is also happens to be a man. Who is also the husband. Who is also the father.
Yeah.
Playing different roles. And then they are also within the family, as I say, there's extended family. So you need to understand all of those structures. It takes time.
Yeah.
Now, for you to understand those structures and how they function, and how they fit into one another. And for the different members of the family to understand all of those things, you need communication. So communication is the oil that makes things move.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very important. And then this family system was first described in very many details by a guy called Savanda Minuchin. He was alive, I think, a few years ago when I revisited him in terms of his contribution. And then there's also another very important way of family therapy is trying to modify the way people behave within a given institution. Like, for example, if the issue is about money,
Yeah.
and there are several issues that are fundamental. If we have time, we can talk about that. If it's the way of how the money is spent, maybe simple things like, why don't you just sit together and bunch it together?
Yeah.
Why don't you do things in a slightly different? You are trying to change in behavior. And remember, in the past we have talked about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
You change the way people think, because if you change the way people think, it's going to affect the way they do things.
Very true.
Yeah. So the same thing, the same principle applies.
Okay.
But again, to make people understand how their behavior is affecting the behavior of other people, yeah, you also need communication.
Yes.
There are very many fathers.
Communication is everywhere.
The communication is everywhere.
Yeah.
There are many fathers, and I think viewers would agree, who don't think there is anything wrong in being violent. They think it's normal.
Yeah.
I mean, my father used to. Why can't I do it? And if you analyze these behaviors, it takes time to analyze the behavioral patterns within that family. And when you understand how that behaviors affect the one, then you can modify that kind of behavior. We call it behavioral therapy.
Okay.
And then the fourth category is what we call it analytic therapy. And I'll explain what I mean. This is based on Sigmund Freud, who is really the father of psychoanalysis. And basically, what we are trying to do is to understand the behavior of this person in respect to the way he grew up. Yeah.
Yes.
If he comes from a background where it's normal, the father used to. My father used to, so I can also do it. My mother used to do this, and I can do it. I used to see my grandmother do this, so what's wrong with doing all of these things? That you understand behavior from that developmental perspective. And this developmental perspective can go very much back to childhood. Living up with another person like you and me and these people around us, the viewers, how we grew up the environment in which our cultural background and things like that may affect the way we are treating members of the family
Yes.
without actually understanding that this is happening. Now, for you to get all of those things, you need time. You need to listen. Even you, as a therapist, talk as little as possible and prompt people, to talk. And you guide that discussion. And as they talk, and you interpret for them what they are actually saying, you'll be surprised. You say, oh yeah, I didn't know that this was happening, because it had never been brought up to their attention.
Wow.
So these are the main categories,
Okay.
4 categories. And within each category, there will be variations. People will talk about counseling, talk about this, they will talk about that. But that's within, they cannot be collapsed into those very main categories,
Okay.
4 categories. But the oil is communication.
Communication.
Yes.
You know, I'm just thinking about communication because many of us, if you would ask us, we make an assumption that we communicate. I mean, we live in the same house, we talk every day, we communicate.
Yes.
And I'm thinking in a situation like this, looking at it from my perspective, I would think this person is the problem.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
why do the rest of us need to come here?
Yes.
Yeye, sisi tunakwambia yeye ndio ako na shida.
Yes.
You know, deal with him. So I'm just wondering, how do you help families to learn to communicate and to begin to see how communication affects
Yes,
everything?
I will tell you that in a moment. But you see, even as you are saying, see, this is a problem.
Yes.
There's at least
There are 3 fingers pointing at me.
there are three fingers pointing at you.
Yes.
Communication, simply put, in the simplest language possible, is getting into the shoes of the other person so that you understand how they are feeling and where they feel the way they feel.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
You may not agree with their behavior, but you can understand why they behave the way they behave. That's what communication is.
I think that's a very hard task.
Communication is borrowing my glasses, wearing them, and seeing the world the way I see it, and then you'll understand, and you come to this position, and listen very carefully. You say, if I were the person feeling the where the shoe pinches for this particular person, if I was in that position, I would behave exactly like that person.
Or probably even worse.
Or even worse.
It's interesting you say that, Professor, because a couple of weeks ago I got the opportunity to host a lady who was addicted to alcohol for many, many years.
Yes.
And, you know, she said her family had basically written her off.
Yes.
Communication was non-existent. Because according to the family, this is the life you have chosen.
Yes.
The day you wake up and decide to leave it, you will leave it and you will find us here. But she was telling me it's only after she had gone through rehab that she was able to come back and teach her family what she was going through and how she was seeing the world and the power of an addiction and how it is a mental illness. And her family did not understand that.
They don't understand. They don't understand the dynamics behind all of that. They don't understand that addiction, now that you brought up that issue, addiction or alcohol addiction, and depending, is a biological, is an illness, and they have they have no control over it. Very important to know that. There is a very important experiment that was done in US. And they wanted to know, understand what addiction is. And what they did was to put a rat, to teach a rat how to take alcohol. They are very easy to teach how to get to take alcohol. And then a stage came when they put the rat in one chamber, and they put alcohol in the next chamber. And as they increased dependence on this rat, and in between, there was a live wire. There was with electricity and a very strong current. And they increase the addiction, and then the rat will probably jump over to get to the hardcore. And then they will keep on increasing the addiction and increase the voltage, the amount of electricity flowing through that wire. The rat eventually came to the conclusion, of course it didn't say, but in terms of behavior, I would rather get that hardcore, whether I die or not. What? Whether I die or not. And many of them died as they were trying to go through across this live wire to get to the other side. And then they looked at the brain, what was happening in the brain. And they realized that the power or the chemical changes that was that had taken place in the brain of this rat was so powerful that the rat had no control over it. So when you see people addicted, please don't say it is their fault.
We are out of time for Food for Thought with Professor Ndetey.
Food for Thought with Professor David Ndetey.